Surya, can you please tell us a little bit of your background and what kind of dietary habits and what kind of health issues you encountered and how did you take care of them? Meaning that how did you switch? How did you change? What motivated you to be a carnivore?
The interesting thing is a very wonderful person named Dr. Laszlo Boros was my was the reason why I changed a lot in my life. I've been listening to your podcasts on YouTube since about 10 years at least 10 years, and being a doctor who studied medicine and dentistry both, I've been taught stuff that that was not enough. And the moment I started listening to you, my whole approach towards medicine and food and metabolism changed.
Thank you so much. Can you please tell us your health history, just what you would like to share as far as dieting and health in general, and why did you have to change your diet?
Sure. I've always been interested in health, always, because I come from India, and most of the family, the people in my family, have not passed the age of 72. That was the maximum. And they died usually because of cancer or high blood pressure, heart attacks, that sort of stuff. Diabetes. Everyone has diabetes.
And your background is you are from India, if
I'm from India. I came to Germany at the age of 18 and started studying here, studied medicine and then dentistry. And I'm practicing in my own practices here in Berlin, Germany.
Go ahead.
Yes, well, the main thing is over the years, I've realized that I'm losing more and more of my family and to the same diseases, and I just didn't understand. They said, oh, it runs in the family. So the final thing happened when 2007, when I lost my dad to cancer. And that was the thing that it took me about a year to recover from that. So, and after I recovered from it, I decided that there needs to be something done about it, because I love finding out stuff about the human body and how everything works. I love biochemistry, I love physiology and everything, and I've soaked up everything that we've been taught. And then suddenly I picked up, just by chance, one of your talks on fumarate hydrotase.
So you saw that presentation, and then what happened?
That was one of the first presentations, and I said, no, this can't be. I mean, I've been taught biochemistry in school, in the university, and what am I missing here? And you know, the interesting thing about how you showed us this whole thing, the TCA cycle and everything, that stuck in my brain all these years, and it's not gone away. Why is the body taking 10 steps to remove all the hydrogen from sugars?
So practically the number of hydrogens, protons in the molecule determines how many steps it takes to clear that molecule for a TCA cycle entry and so on.
Right. It's really totally interesting. It was so logical. This is the first time that I've understood why the body is doing something. You know, we were taught what the body does, if at all we understand it, but why it's doing it. The first time that I heard of deuterium, and the first time that I heard of ATP synthase, that ATP synthase channels the hydrogens through the mitochondrial membrane, and that deuterium that is double the size of hydrogen will break something that's rotating at 9,000 RPM. It's going to break it. It's never going to be fixed. You have to make it again. You have to reconstruct it from scratch using the mitochondrial DNA.
Did you know that there are actually nanomotors that spin 100,000 rotations per minute?
Before I heard your podcast.
Yeah.
Before that I didn't. I really didn't. Yeah. But I was supposing that there are nanomotors there. But the ATP synthase, I knew about the electron transfer chain. I knew that. Okay, this is something that has been taught. But how the pump works, the nanomotor pump, how that works, is something that I learned from you, and I've kept it in my mind all the time.
I learned this from Paul Boyer, who got the Nobel Prize in '92 for the ATP synthase nanomotors, and he was at UCLA. So, sorry, I'm looking at the wall again. So
that's okay.
You are bigger than the wall, so I just keep on my head. But anyhow, so I knew Paul Boyer, and he told me his son is also a biochemist, and he told me several times when we had short conversations. He died in 2018, unfortunately. But he found this very particularly interesting, that there is a enzyme reaction, a proton transfer that takes a peptide to turn around its own shaft. It was the first of its kind. And for that matter, this was a huge deal. And when I was in medical school in 1985, we learned about the mitochondria, and the biochemistry professor said we don't really know how ATP is synthesized, because they didn't know this.
They didn't know this. They didn't know this.
And they didn't know that. And they didn't know.
I finished in 1998. Okay. I finished my dentistry in 1998, because before that I had finished my medical. None of them knew it properly. But the interesting thing is, all these years I've been trying to eat clean. The people around me are dying. My family is dying, of diabetes, of various metabolic problems. And you know that our metabolism as eukaryotes is dependent on the mitochondria, which means the mitochondria, they call it the powerhouse of the cell. But it's something that we took in millions of years ago. Millions of years ago, we took in, and they're doing a job for us. Without the mitochondria, we'll be fermenting this stuff, just like the bacteria. Okay? So this fermenting,
So what kind of dietary change did you have to make?
Well, the first thing that I realized, that because I was vegan for a very long time. Everyone in the family is either vegan or vegetarian. Okay?
What's the difference? What's the difference between vegan and vegetarian?
Well, a vegetarian would not eat anything that needs to be killed. Okay. He would eat basically milk products, that sort of stuff. Especially animal stuff, that's no animals that are killed. Some of them eat eggs. A vegan would eat no animal stuff. That means there are no eggs, no milk products, no honey, that sort of stuff. So I was vegan for a very long time.
This is a Hindu religious background mostly?
The Hindus these days, they say it's Hindu, but I know that the old teachings from the Vedas, these are the old teachings, like the Old Testament for the Christians. Okay, these are the old teachings. They say you have to eat cows. You have to eat the best cow. You have to sacrifice it and eat it.
So practically, this is a traditional vegetarian, vegan dieting that took you to what health condition, or how did you feel after all?
Well, now I'm 56 years of age. Okay.
What?
Yes, I'm 56 years.
You look like what? 35?
Thank you very much.
I would say.
This is what species appropriate diet does to you. I've changed. I've changed.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I've changed. A lot has happened because I used to be fat. I used to weigh more than 20 kilos more than now. And I used to have lots of joint pains, headaches. And the doctor I went to back then told me I had a fatty liver and I need to take drugs. So this was a point where I started doubting what the doctors were saying. I'm a doctor myself, so I know what's happening around there. So I know exactly what the motivation of a doctor is. So I started to do my own research and realized the main thing is we have organs in our body, big organs, that have the only function is to produce stuff for the mitochondria. We have lungs only for the mitochondria. We don't need it. We don't need it. It's for the mitochondria, because so that they can get their oxygen. and we can get rid of the carbon dioxide. So, and the food that we eat, okay, whether it's vegetarian, whether it's meat, whether it's something else, none of the cells in our body, none of them are going to see this food this way. They should ever see the food in this condition. Neither the cells nor the mitochondria would ever see what's on our plate. So, and knowing this, these are basic stuff that came to my mind. We're basically serving the mitochondria so that we can live. So I needed to know, what does the mitochondria really need? What should I put into this car to make it run perfectly?
That you learned this from Esther. I'm 100% sure.
So the problem is that we're being told that we have to eat through this food pyramid. That's a fake. And this food pyramid is telling us, everyone in the world, through the media, through the politics, and through everything else, what we have to eat. We're the only species on Earth who don't instinctively know what we should eat.
This is Esther's food pyramid. We just got this from the kids.
Wonderful.
Here it is. This is
I love it.
I mean, this is the cow, this is the pork, and that's a fat big chicken. So
I love it. I love it. Very good. So I was wondering, I was checking everything because I was eating vegan really, really scientifically. I was making sure I was getting my vitamin D by going out in the sunlight. I wasn't getting it from the animals. I was getting my B12 by eating the roots of leguminous plants. I was getting all sorts of stuff, and I was still not feeling well because the brain chemistry was not working. And, you know, in my family, everyone is proud of having a good head, so to speak, but the brain chemistry was not working like the way I wanted it to. I was tired during the day. This was the time where I, you know, just snore off at the age of 40, and I was really feeling old.
yeah.
So, well, there was a point where I decided that I need to look into it deeper. I was doing I'd seen your podcast a couple of times, and I said, okay, it's a mitochondria. I need to find out what's happening to the mitochondria. And in between, very interestingly enough, I knew that a couple of Nobel Prizes in the 1930s were given out to people like Hans Krebs or various other people, Otto von Warburg, or various other people who were working on these things. And they realized that a ketogenic diet helped heal quite a lot of problems, especially with the brain, especially with epilepsy and that sort of stuff. So that was one of the things I said, we know about these things about 100 years almost, and nobody's doing anything about it, which means there are vested interests. Someone is profiting from us not knowing. Someone is profiting from us doing the wrong things. Because if you're healthy, you cannot make money off someone. If you're dead, you cannot make money off someone. But the limbo between healthy and dead is sickness. And when you're sick, you can make money off these people.
By the way, did you know that Harold Urey, who discovered deuterium and got the Nobel Prize in 1933, he published a paper, and the title said a hydrogen isotope with a mass of 2. So he did not describe this isotope any other way, how significant its mass is compared to the parent ion.
Really, really, just one neutron more, and it changes everything.
Yeah, but that's huge, and that's what the title of his paper, a hydrogen isotope with a mass of 2, which is a huge change. Even in the title, he couldn't say it any better how big the problem is with deuterium.
So that was exactly what you're talking about deuterium. That came along because I was thinking, okay, the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell, okay, but they need a fuel. And what is the main fuel in the universe? There's the one first element that was formed, and it's the fuel of every single star in the universe. It's hydrogen. So every star uses hydrogen, fuses it to helium, okay, and makes all the other elements inside it.
This is to match the resonance with the photosynthesis and so on. This is fascinating.
So the way in which I think, I come from India, and we have our philosophy that everything is connected. Everything is harmonically connected with one another. So you have to imagine that if a star is producing our elements in our body, and the star explodes and coalesces after billions of years to a planet, and on that planet life forms, it's everywhere. It's not just on Earth, okay? So, and the animals and the bacteria, the fungi, the viruses, the animals, the plants that come out of it, recycle this energy that's been formed in the stars, inside of a star, take the photons, convert them back into matter, so to speak, use the photons to split water, and create the energy that's inside water, store it in carbon or silicon molecules, so to speak. And these are recycled throughout nature to understand the whole big picture.
So this is a proton distribution or distributing system after all in the stars, in the planets, and this is the source of life in general.
That's the interesting part of it, because nobody's thinking about, we're looking at the ground and everything is happening around us in the universe. But the interesting thing is the photons that are coming here, they don't always have the same energy, basically. The problem is to split water, to produce the energy, to take the energy out of it for chemical processes in the photosynthesis, you need more intensity of the photons that are splitting it, and an H2O needs less energy to split than DHO or D2O. So knowing that deuterium, not tritium, because tritium is radioactive, but the deuterium is a heavy isotope. It just has one more neutron in it. So knowing that this is, let's say 155 parts per million in seawater, we're taking seawater. This is too much for our body, because knowing that deuterium is going to destroy the mitochondria, we need less of deuterium for the mitochondria. We need deuterium for other stuff, because we need stuff in our body like bones, cartilage, and stuff that needs to be really strong, that shouldn't be broken. We need hydrogen bonds with the heavy hydrogen, which is deuterium. But the stuff that needs to be broken, we need the other one.
Go ahead.
So interestingly enough, I was collecting information. I'm like a sponge. Everything comes in and I try and put it together. Ask around how many of the people eat collagen as a supplement.
Yes. You can see it's only
very good. Very good. But at least it's very interesting. Does any of them know how high the deuterium content of collagen is?
No one knows exactly what the.
How about you? How about you, my friend?
Well, I do know what it is. So
it's above 200.
Yeah, it's above.
It's above 200 ppm. So collagen and bones, they concentrate deuterium. So this is the stuff that got me into thinking why. I mean, there's no poison, basically. It depends on the way in which you're looking at it, okay? You have to be careful. We need, I was eating plants and I was not feeling well. And I realized that I have to check my anatomy to find out what this anatomy is basically made to digest.
Go ahead.
So I went back to the Paleolithic time, the Stone Age time, when I realized that the humans, before they started agriculture, let's assume it was around 9,000 years back, okay? But the problem is, something strange happened around between 12,500 and 11,000 years ago, okay? Something strange happened. The Earth was hit by something that caused flash freezing in the northern hemisphere. Flash freezing. All the megafauna, most of the megafauna died out. Okay. Now the megafauna was our main source of food because we didn't have agriculture. The thing is, the humankind had already specialized in eating stuff. Okay. We weren't, let's say millions of years, about 3 million years ago. Okay. The first of our kind started roaming the earth and eating bones. They were eating the contents of the bones and eating the brains, which was this expensive tissue hypothesis that gave us our big brains was because we reduced our gut, our big intestine. We stopped fermenting stuff like the other apes, and something changed within us. And this change, which is very interesting, is if we consider ourselves to be apes, like all the other apes, every ape has 24 chromosome pairs. We have 23. We have one chromosome pair that's missing. Very strange things were happening to humankind. Humankind has been evolving in a very, very strange way. We have a deletion of a chromosome pair. We have the fusion of chromosome number 2. We have the change of all the hair that we had on our body to sweat glands. So one very interesting thing about us, because we have to eat all the time, okay? Vegans are continuously eating most of the time, and the rest of the time they spend sleeping. But we can eat once a day, like I do. I eat only once a day. And we eat once a day, and we're fine. We're done. We're happy.
And what do you eat nowadays? That's a question I just got.
Well, I eat around this time usually, once a day, and it's usually fatty meat, bone marrow, brains, a heart, liver, that sort of stuff. And I eat.
That's good. And that's good for the day, meaning that you only eat more.
That's good for the day. I have everything in it that I need. And if I feel like eating more, if the meat is not fatty enough, I eat a stick of butter, about this much, 250 grams of butter during the day. That's good.
What kind of butter do you eat?
Organic grass-fed. Like the meat, I try and get organic grass-fed. Even though it's interesting, this is a topic for itself, but it has to do with deuterium. And it has to do with the type of fatty acids that are produced in an animal when it eats the vegetables. Plants give at a certain time, only a certain time, especially in the northern hemisphere, a certain time in the late summer, they bring their fruit. Okay, so this fruit, the fructose that's in it, and the unsaturated fatty acids have one function. That function is to allow the animal to get fat, because you decouple the mitochondrial, it's an uncoupling of this, and the animal gets fat, and it has fat reserves for the winter where there's no food.
Yeah. Do you eat butter or you eat ghee?
Both.
It was a question from the audience.
Yes, both, because ghee is when I want to fry something. If I'm trying to fry a steak or something like that, and I have visitors, I use ghee because butter burns. Okay, you have to be careful about butter, but with ghee it's wonderful, and ghee is concentrated fat basically.
Now, ghee is something that you practically slowly harvest from the top of a milk boiling.
No. That's cream. Ghee is when you concentrate the butter. If you melt the butter until all the milk solids go down, all the water gets evaporated, and you get a concentrated fat.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
So the interesting thing is, when we eat stuff, the macros that we eat, okay, carbohydrates are not essential. We don't need them, but we do need fats. We do need proteins. Okay, and the interesting thing is, when we eat carbohydrates, we have two pathways that we can go through. One to produce heat and metabolic energy, and the other one, if we don't use it, if it's uncoupled, if it's a toxin for the mitochondria, to produce fat from the 2C units that are produced that are not burnt, so to speak. So these are in the made to fat in the fat cycle. So the two things that come from a fruit, from a plant, the sugar, which is fructose. I'm not talking about glucose yet, because the body produces glucose when it needs it. Fructose and the fatty acids are both toxins, the biggest toxins that we have for the mitochondria. So no single cell in the body can utilize fructose. Three exceptions. The liver, it turns it into fat. Sperm cells, they use fructose. And the third one is what got me. Cancer cells. All cancer cells love fructose. Why? Because they can use it to burn energy, and they can use it to make ribose, which they need DNA.
You know, I wrote papers about this back in the late 90s, the pentose cycle, which is it has an oxidative branch, it has a non-oxidative branch. It's practically a direct oxidation of glucose into ribose.
To transfer it, you need the phosphofructokinase, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's practically a transcrolase is a reversible enzyme that actually produces ribose and cytohaptulose and so on. And it's reversible. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is an irreversible enzyme, and it recruits. Actually, we are just publishing in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States. Just now the paper is coming out. I just got an email from the editor, from the print editor. I'm going to send you that paper. That's a killer, man. That's
you see, it's the instinct is there. You know something is happening here. You know something's not quite right, but they're telling you eat as many fruits as you can, eat nuts, eat seed oils, so you get fat and sick. Okay, the unsaturated fats, which is what they want you to eat, they're saying eat it because this was crystallized cottonseed oil. This was Crisco. Okay, 100 years ago, it was used as a machine lubricant, and now they're putting it into food. They've been putting it into food for years, but not everyone was using it. And this goes into the mitochondria because the mitochondria think it looks like palmitic acid, or it looks like stearic acid, or something like that, but it's not.
You know, what's really funny is that through the coordinated system, these fatty acids get into the mitochondria directly. They don't need a 10-step.
These are the only things, because
they are not suspecting this is a toxin practically, because we have a coordinated transport system. Nothing to check on fatty acids, but they should be good.
Right. Because if it's like you just put a picture of someone on your face that looks like your family member, they can come through the house. So fatty acids can get into the mitochondria without needing any transport. The mitochondria just takes it in. And now this happens. It goes into cardiolipin and destroys it. It doesn't work. Okay? And because of all the stuff that's going inside, if any one of this electron transport chain doesn't work, you're not going to produce, it's going to stay inside, first of all, destroy the mitochondrial membranes. It destroys the cells on the surface. The mitochondria are inside the cell, but this destroys the membrane and every other membrane that is inside the cell, the nuclear membrane and all the other membranes, they get diluted and oxidized.
Do you think the leaky gut syndrome is, after all, a membrane damage of the epithelial and endothelial cell layers?
I'll come to that. I'll talk about atherosclerosis, but let's one step back.
Okay.
One step back, because now that the oxygen that is coming into the cell through diffusion is picked up by the fatty acids, it's not available for the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is being oxygen starved because of the fatty acids that are taking in oxygen for the double bonds. Now, what do you call a fat that's been oxidized? It's rancid.
That's an epoxy.
It's rancid. It's rancid. It cannot be used for anything. It stinks and it's horrible. So if you find stuff on your skin that's brown, okay, the brown pigmentation, they call it age spots, right? Or liver spots. It's nothing other than lipofuscin that's been caused by rancid oxidized fats. But then you would say, wait a minute. Which fats are getting oxidized? Now, saturated fats have, each of their bonds are filled with hydrogen. There's no space for oxygen. So it has to be the unsaturated fat. We have two sources of unsaturated fats in our diet. Two sources. The first source is plants and seeds, seed oils. The second source is animals, especially fatty fish. So I was looking at your background behind you. There's a person fishing. Okay, so this looks like right behind you. Fishing. Now, fish has always been a very good source of protein. Okay, but why would fish accumulate omega-3? Why would they accumulate fatty acids? Why would they do that? Because the water is cold. And the
It's
deeper
like
you
cooking a fish soup over there. You see, the guy
Yeah.
is fishing, and this is a Hungarian fish soup with all its.
I would love to try it. But imagine this, especially deep sea fish, okay, when the water is sub-zero temperatures, they still need to move. If their body was consisting of fat that was of saturated fat, it would freeze immediately and the fish cannot move. It would
Yeah,
be
that's it. Oh,
solid.
this is very interesting. I never thought about this. You know, now I'm learning something from you. This is fascinating. Thank you so much.
So, so you have to see unsaturated fats in animals as an antifreeze. Fish never use this fat for energy.
What fat? Sorry.
The omega-3
Fish fat.
Never use them for energy, never. So that's antifreeze. Now, thinking this thought further, the first source of unsaturated fatty acids are plants. Why would the plants put unsaturated fatty acids? Where do they put them? They don't put them in the leaves. They don't put them in the trunk. They don't put them in the tubers. They put them in the seeds. Why? Because when the seeds in late autumn, when they fall, okay, on the ground, and the snow falls on top of it, they don't freeze. So they're the first, they have an evolutionary advantage to come through the snow because they're not frozen. And they are the first plants to grow, so they get the first sunlight and they have the advantage of surviving. So these are fats that are fluid even in the deep freezer. If you put it into a deep freezer, they're still, sub-zero temperatures, they're still fluid. It doesn't happen with butter, it doesn't happen with lard, it doesn't happen with anything else that you use that is saturated. So they are stable. Every chemical is stable at a certain temperature. They're stable and not oxidized in dark conditions and cold conditions. So what happens if you put this unsaturated fatty acid into our bodies that are 36 degrees Celsius and full of oxygen?
Yeah, that's
they get completely destroyed. They get completely destroyed. And they destroy everything they touch. If they touch the gut lining, now I'm back to it. Now I'm back to the leaky gut. They touch the gut lining, they destroy it. They touch the blood vessels, they destroy the blood vessels. So our instinct should tell us, don't touch it. But we listen to the media, we listen to the politicians, we listen to everyone else who's telling us, you have to use vegetable oils because it's healthy. And you need omega-3 fish oil supplements. So we need a certain amount of omega-3s and omega-6s, but our body is capable of making them, or when we get the right food. This is around the time that I eat, so I'm just eating, okay? This is what can you see this? You know what this is?
Bone marrow, isn't it? Bone marrow.
Bone marrow, raw. Okay. It's raw.
This is from beef, is that right?
Beef, yes. Yes. So this raw bone marrow.
Yeah, this looks like an elephant for a moment for the audience because it's huge. Surya, this was fascinating. I don't want to interrupt or disrupt your beautiful dinner. This was fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about this stuff when you have time. We're going to schedule another talk. Sure. This is very sweet of you helping us out a little bit, and I'm very happy to know you now, and very happy to know that you learned something from us. Now, do you know Paleomedicina,
yes.
Joe Clements and?
Yes, I do, because I've been following them. I've been following them quite a long time.
But Zofia is right here. So we were lucky enough to have Paleomedicina present here, and the glucose, vitamin C competition, the unsaturated fat situation, the clinical scenarios, we talked about these. And this is just adding to your fascinating story for that matter. And there's one more question. Do you have patients who change from herbivore to carnivore dieting, and is there any change in their oral health conditions or oral health?
Question. It's a very good question. Basically, my patients have seen my change. I used to be really fat. So I tell them I drink distilled water. I drink distilled water and I eat meat,
Okay.
animal products. But the thing is, I don't want to drink any water that is contaminated. So it's like rainwater is the best water, basically. And after distilling the water, I leave it out in the sunlight so that infrared light hits it. And that changes the structure of water into its fourth form. We know water has three forms, but it has a fourth form, a gel form. Okay, this is why this hexagonal form is why all snowflakes are hexagonal, and that is similar. That is similar to the metabolic water that the mitochondria produce. This metabolic water that the mitochondria produce is very important for everything in the body, and it makes you younger. So if anyone has a source of deuterium depleted water, they should drink it.
So what's the oral health situation? That's my last question. We'll let you eat and we'll let you go.
No.
You go on a break too?
Eating, but I can answer your questions. You might have less time. Well, the oral health situation is immediately changed. When my patients do, I don't tell them what to do. I tell them what I do. So I don't eat any plants.
Say it again.
I don't eat any plants. So the moment you stop any form of plant material in your mouth, the bacteria in your mouth changes. Same thing happens in the gut. So you have a complete change of bacteria depending on what you're eating. And since we absorb everything that we eat in the small intestine, and the large intestine doesn't do any work of digestion, all of the resorption happens in the small intestine. So if I eat bone marrow, fatty stuff, it's all gone in the small intestine. It's completely gone. No bloating, nothing. And in the mouth, there's not going to be any sugars produced, any acids. So if you eat meat with a small amount of plants, whether they're grains or paleo grains or something like that, I have no problems with it. But there are people that have problems with leaky gut. And the leaky gut is mainly caused by certain plant toxins. The plants want your gut to be leaky so that you don't come again to eat them. They want it to be leaky. So they have stuff that's gluten. Gluten is the big thing. And each of these small grains have a type of gluten. Rice has its own type of gluten. Wheat has its own type of gluten, and all of the others, even stuff that was paleo. So these open the tight junctions between the cells. And when that happens, then you get leaky gut, and bacteria go into the blood, and that is in the small intestine. The small intestine says, "Hey, I want to get rid of this. Get it out as quickly as possible." Then it reaches the large intestine where it starts fermenting. So if you're eating meat or not, if you eat plants with the meat, you're finished.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, maybe there is one question. There are different opinions. I do agree with your opinion. There are different opinions, but practically that's how we are from the biochemistry point of view. There is one question from Ernest. He's from the UK. So
yes.
He speaks better English than me, this guy. Very, very clever. Anyway,
better English than him.
Anyway, all I want to know is for the children. I notice you're eating this bone marrow.
Yes.
I'm going to try it very, very quickly now.
Yes.
But and it's raw. And can children eat raw bone marrow?
My children eat raw bone marrow.
That's all I want to know. So it's no problem at all.
Absolutely not, because it's species appropriate. That's how we evolved. That's what gave us this here. Okay. Yes. Eating, the bone marrow is full of unsaturated fatty acids. They're called conjugated linoleic acid, CLA.
CLA. Okay.
This is the stuff that we need for the brain.
Perfect.
This is the stuff that makes all the omega-3 that we're getting. We should be getting them from these.
Yeah, perfect. You're very enthusiastic, and your enthusiasm has come through with this guy as well, because we're all tired, but you can see you're really enthusiastic. It's lovely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How about fermented cabbage, fermented plant products?
Yes, very nice. Very good question. You're going to get the vitamin K2, I think that's mannochinone, and you might get vitamin C from that, and B12. These are the things that you get from fermented stuff, which is good for us. We need mannochinone, we need methylcobalamin, we need vitamin C, ascorbic, the complex acid, the complex. But the bacteria that ferment cabbage, when they reach your gut, you know what they're going to ask for? They're not going to ask for this. They're going to say, the cabbage, I want ferment, because every bacterium is specialized on a special type of food. Okay? So the bacteria that ferments cabbage or plant material will ask for plant material. If you don't give it, it dies out. So you have to keep eating it if you want to keep the bacteria. But why do you want to keep something in your body that's just taking up space that's not going to be fed?
So because this is kind of a funny situation. If you see a Attenborough nature movie, the lions are eating the water buffalo they just killed. First, they eat the interiors, and there is, I would say, about 100 kilograms of fermented plants or plant products in their guts and in their bellies. What's the role of those?
Very simple. The thing is, you have to see which of the lions eat what. The first one who can eat is not the one that has killed the animal. The first one is the male. He gets to eat first, even though he's not killed the animal, because his role, he has the biggest jaws and the strongest bite in the whole cat kingdom. Okay, but he gets to eat first, even though he's not killed the animal, because his role comes at night to fight off the hyenas. That's he stays awake and the females are sleeping. So he gets to eat first. But what does he eat? He eats the liver, he eats the heart. And these are full of stuff. The heart is the only muscle that's working the whole time from birth till death. And it's full of the best stuff.
So the male lion eats the liver and the heart?
Liver and the heart. Then the females come and they eat the kidneys, the lungs, all the other stuff, the glands that are inside. And when they're finished, the young lions get to eat the muscle meat.
And what happens to the bowel content?
The bowel contents, there are vultures. They come and take the rest.
There's one question.
Yeah.
So on dog food, when you look at dog food, they actually spray them with plant-eating animals' bowel content. So practically just fertilizer.
Okay. Basically, you must imagine that dogs have evolved with us from the young Stone Age, from the Stone Age times, from the Paleo times, which means that you should feed a dog what you feed us. They're going to have the same problems as we have. They're going to get fat. They're going to get diabetes. They're going to get tooth decay. They're going to get everything. They should get meat. Which is why I find PKD perfect, because it's good for, in the sense, it's good for the humans, it's good for the dogs too, because anything that humans ate back then, the dogs have to eat too. Cats are different.
Yeah, this is very interesting of a discussion, because I personally do believe that this fermented plant interior, whatever, because I do work with goat, meaning that sheep, we kill them, and it's very easy to cut the stomach content, the bowel content, because it's not really a sturdy tissue for that matter. So in my view, there is some fermented plant products with the interiors that go into the animal system.
Yes, but that's not bad. But you don't have to eat it in large quantities, because you're gonna have dysbiosis. I'll tell you the one reason why. It's very simple. The small intestine, after digestion, okay, we have the highest acidity in the whole animal kingdom. Highest cultures, which means we're made to eat rotten meat. We're made to eat rotten meat. So we have the highest. So any bacteria that goes into our stomach gets killed. The upper intestine, the small intestine, should be absolutely free of bacteria, because if it gets bacteria, that's called SIBO. Small intestinal bacteria. You're not supposed to have any bacteria there. Lower down, that's not a problem. It's not a big deal. But the thing is that the spores open up and they live there if we eat some plant matter. That's okay, because the small amounts of plants that we eat, the small amounts, they get digested by the large intestine, the bacteria there, into short chain fatty acids, and these short chain fatty acids are very important for the enterocytes, for the gut lining. They eat that's what the gut eats. I have an idea for you.
Go ahead.
You know that you can ferment meat.
Of course, yeah.
So The bacteria that you get in fermented meat are the bacteria that you need for yourself. As long as you're eating meat, you need these bacteria. If you're eating plants, you need stuff like cabbage and so.
Do you eat eggs? That was another.
Yes, I eat them raw.
Raw?
Yes.
Everything raw? You eat everything raw? Or do you?
Just a second. It's important that, especially with birds, you have to be careful. I have my own birds, like you have your sheep. This is the egg. So, just so that you can see it, okay? So, the eggs, the shells are a good calcium source, very good for our bones, okay? So these can be dried, powdered, and taken just like that. This is a raw egg. Delicious.
Last drop. Thank you so much. So we're gonna take a break here. This was fantastic. We're gonna continue this. I like to explore more with from your angle. Thank you so much. It was very, very nice of you.
You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime.